Hey guys, today I'll be bringing you along on the adventure of a restoration again. So this is a look at a pre-restoration Memorymoog standard. And like I said, I'm just going to try to start documenting the before restoration, kind of what I go through with these things. But this is a standard Memorymoog, as mentioned. It's not a plus unit, although the plus and standard are the exact same machine. Just the plus has an expansion board in there with some different software. That's really all that changes. But this is a dead on arrival. It doesn't boot up. I've stuck my power supply in here I use for debugging purposes just to get it to safely power up. But you can see it is dead. No boot up. It just shows just the display there, and that is all we got. But I'll show you what's going to make this one fun is I don't think this thing's ever been cleaned. So you can look inside this thing to see how dusty and nasty. I mean, it is really caked in there. And you can see around the fan there especially just how dirty it is. And of course that's where I rub my finger in it. You can see, I mean, it's just coated good. So what I'm going to be doing to this one first is I'm going to be getting it repaired as far as getting the computer working like it's supposed to work. And then of course stripping this thing completely down, cleaning everything up really good, and starting fresh. So that's how I do these restorations. I always, even if they're really dirty like this, unless it's just something that's hazmat, which I have had those in here where it's just so dirty I don't even want to touch it. This one is bearable. I can handle. Yeah, this is just dust and build up from years and years, and probably nicotine. This is why I don't like people that smoke around their gear, because it tends to collect the tar, and then the tar just collects all the dust. And of course you can see with the keyboard set, I pulled the keyboard away and how nice and shiny it is right there. You can see how dirty the harness is, and the power supply you can see it's pretty much baked, I think, just from all the dust. The caps are swollen really good, so I don't even want to attempt to power it with that supply. So I just put in my debug power supply. This one I just keep around the shop. I call it Old Faithful because it's one I just kind of put in these things just to do a quick run to make sure all the voltage rails are up, you know, and see kind of where we're at before I dig really deep into these things. But anyways, what I'm going to be doing to this one is, like I say, fix the computer, then strip it down, clean all the circuit boards up really good because they're just as coated as everything else. This one also does not have the auto-tune upgrade, so it'll be getting an auto-tune upgrade with new software. And it'll go from a 1.6 operating system to a 2.5 operating system. And that'll actually help with the auto-tune accuracy and all that good stuff. But you can see it doesn't have the expansion board as mentioned, which would go right here. So this is a standard. That's what makes this thing a standard. But you can see, as I've mentioned in the past, you've already got your connection right there for the expansion harness. So the big ribbon cable that comes out and goes over to that board is already there. It's just software change and a few little modifications to the digital board to make it run it. But anyways, you can just see just how dirty it is. There's not much to really show as far as audio goes because it is dead on arrival, but we can pull this keyboard back and you can see just how dirty. I mean, I wish you could, maybe I can get this on camera, just how filthy. But yeah, it's definitely time to clean. It almost looks like it has shag carpet inside of it. So we're gonna be cleaning this thing up really good, and that's where we're going to start. So anyways, I'll have you guys pictures and documentation as I go through this thing. Just an update here on the Memorymoog. So as you can see, it's now alive to some degree. It's not perfect, but we do have it actually booting up and running now, and that's good news. Now I do have my debug computer in it right now because I've been chasing a lot of faults on the demucks, and it just kind of makes it a little easier for me to troubleshoot, a little quicker to troubleshoot by installing a computer that's known to work. This is just one I keep around, and of course it still didn't work with my computer, so I was able to go in the interface boards. I had some faults in the interface boards. I had some faults on the demucks board, which was causing this thing not to work. And pretty much everything around the DAC. Luckily the DAC was still good, but everything around the DAC was pretty much toasted or bad. A bunch of hex inverters, a bunch of multiplexers. You know, just the typical stuff that fails in these things, which is why I do restoration only pretty much on these things, because there are just so many things that fail, and especially one that's in this kind of condition, because you can just see I still haven't cleaned it, and of course you saw earlier how dirty it was. But as you can hear, it's not healthy sounding, but so it's not healthy, but it is alive. So what I'm doing actually right now is just kind of going through all the Curtis chips, seeing if all the oscillators run. So far we got 2 dead oscillator chips, 3340s, and I'm just checking all the envelope generators, and just kind of doing a wellness check of some of the Curtis chips. And as soon as I get all those addressed and marked as bad, I'll be pulling this thing all apart, taking everything out of this thing, and we're going to start cleaning from the bottom up. And that way this thing's going to be a very fresh, almost like new unit when I'm done with it. But just to show you too the coloration difference. So this is the board I've rebuilt. This is my test board I keep around just for this purpose, compared to this board here that should look exactly like it. And you can see just how clean that board looks and just how dirty that board looks. Of course, once I'm done, these boards will look really good. And this also has one of my friend's signatures on it. So this is a guy that worked at Moog, and he was a technician for the Memorymoog, and that's JS for Jim Sikora. So Jim, shout out to you. Always enjoy seeing your signatures in these things. Pretty cool stuff. But anyways, I'm going to continue on here. Alright, just some more updates for you guys. So as you can see, this thing's looking way cleaner than what it did, and I actually got it running right now. Still got to clean the keyboard assembly. Haven't been through it. You can still see how dirty and nasty and cruddy it looks along the back and everything. It's still really dirty. But just stuck it back in here to do some testing after all the work I've done to it so far. So it will also be getting a new battery. This battery's still the old one. It's still good, but just stuck it back in there just to make sure we didn't have any drainage or anything that was wrong with the computer that would cause it to drain out. So anyways, went to this one, washed all the circuit boards, cleaned them up really good. I gave them a really good alcohol bath. Just cleaned everything up because this thing was just so dirty, if you remember from the first parts of this video. So got everything cleaned up, and actually updated some circuitry in this one. I did the auto-tune upgrade to this one, which requires some circuit modifications to the common analog board as well as the demux, as well as new operating system. So this was originally running a 1.6 operating system, and that's running 2.4 operating system. And I actually have the ability now to erase the EEPROMs and actually burn EEPROMs. So that's a really handy thing to be able to do. So I was able to keep the original EEPROMs and just erase them and rewrite the new operating system in them. So fantastic there. But I also want to show you something this thing's doing that's very interesting. So it's not a Memorymoog failure. I thought it was, and I did some troubleshooting, and I found out it's actually not the Memorymoog. It's a Curtis chip that has failed, and it's one of the 3340 oscillators. And I've never had one fail like this. Typically, when you lose a 3340, you'll either lose calibration, it just won't track the keyboard correctly, or you'll lose waveforms, or it just won't work at all. In this case, it's doing something completely different. So let me show you this. I've got it set up to where it's only voice 1. I'm sorry, only voice 2 in the debug mode here. And what it does is in the voice mod section, or even in the pulse width here, if I change it, it actually controls the frequency of the oscillator, not just the pulse width. So very weird. But I'll show you how this thing does. So hit that. Still works fine there. But if we change it here, but you can see all the waveforms still work. So just a weird issue there. Something I've never seen before. But you can see just how clean the interface looks as well. Cleaned all that up. Had two bad segments in the display, as well as one whole channel that was intermittent. So I'd lose one whole channel occasionally. So just replaced that interface there, that display. So now we got everything working there. And just cleaned everything up. Gave everything a good cleaning. Not done with it yet. Still not done with the detailing part of it. But making some great progress. But also you can see too under the keyboard here. I raised the keyboard up, and you can see we no longer have that shag carpet dust inside here. You can see just how clean everything looks all the way underneath there. It's no longer dirty like it was. Now the keyboard, on the other hand, is still pretty dirty, but the circuit boards and everything like that has been cleaned up really good. Also getting ready to install the Kenton MIDI kit, so I've got some of the things already wired in, as well as some things over here. I'll be adding that as I go along here. Something else I want to bring up really quick, since I've been talking about the operating system change in this unit, I want to show you a really easy way how you can tell if you got 1.6 operating system or 2.4 operating system. So, like I say, early units around 2,000 serial numbers, I still see the 1.6. And typically with the 1.6, first off, the biggest issue with 1.6 is that when you first turn the unit on, it's still cold. It will not pull the voices in. You might hit auto tune, it might pull, maybe one voice in or two voices in, and it'll gradually pull them all in as it warms up. And that's kind of a hassle because it takes some time to get them all pulled in, and then there's a very narrow window which the computer can capture those voices in. So if they're a little out of calibration, it may not ever pull the voice in. So that's a real hassle. That's the big issue with the 1.6. But the easiest way to tell is if we go to the interface here, and actually I'm going to turn my camera upside down here for you. if we look at the interface and we hit keyboard mode, and you can see this one displays cyclic, memory cycle, reset, memory reset, etc. here. If you have one that just says like poly 1, poly 2, poly 3, poly 4 modes, then you've got the 1.6. So that was something that they changed in the actual software to display what you're actually changing there. So that's the easiest way to tell if you got 1.6 or 2.4. So if yours says cyclic and everything, then you've got the auto-tune upgrade, and you've got other problems if your voices do not pull in. So just thought you guys might appreciate getting a little information. Alright, some more updates for you guys here. So it's a few days later since my last video, and I've cleaned up the keyboard assembly, went through all the keys, washed them, took everything apart, cleaned it up really good. So now the keys play really well. Did a full calibration on this unit, so it's now had a full calibration all the way from power supply, demux, common analog board, voices, etc. here, as well as all the envelope adjustments. So on the contour glass, all the envelopes have been calibrated, and so did all that. Also installed the Kenton kit. So I've got the harness all laid out here. Earlier you saw it kind of rolled up back here, and I got everything nice and routed and ran, and there's our Kenton kit over here. And also a shout out to Kenton. They actually called me and after I made the last video of the installation, I made an installation video of this thing. There's some things I wasn't real sure about because the manual wasn't real clear, and they actually gave me a personal phone call and explained some things to me, and that was really fantastic. So shout out to you guys at Kenton. Huge respect on my side here. But I really like the Kenton kit in the standard, and I prefer the standard Memorymoog with a Kenton kit more than I do actually a Plus model. And the simple reason is because it has more MIDI options. So you have actually some MIDI CC control, you have pitch and modulation control through MIDI, and you actually have some channeling and that kind of stuff that's really nice. And also it has its own microprocessor, so it's not eating data off the computer, so your computer runs smoother for the Memorymoog. And it's just overall around just a better system. And of course it's a lot cheaper than if you were to go with something like a Lamb Memorymoog or have some major modifications done just to get more MIDI capability. So it's a really nice way to go. And of course you don't have the sequencer in a standard. That's the only drawback. If you're into the sequencer, you don't have that. But in today's world, I mean, the sequencer in this is kind of obsolete because you can run, you know, external MIDI sequencers through DAW and everything else and control your Memorymoog using them. So a much cleaner way to go, and no click track problems and all that kind of stuff like you have to deal with this older stuff. So just a much cleaner system. But anyways, that's what's been going on here, and just going to give you guys a quick view before I close it up and finish the burn-in. So today I'm just doing a burn-in with it open, just checking a few things, and I'll be closing up doing more of a burn-in with it closed up for more thermal accuracy, and also do some vibration testing and that kind of stuff to make sure this thing's going to hold up and not give any faults in that situation. But also you can just hear it real quick. Now I hadn't even hit auto-tune this morning, so I calibrated it yesterday, and you can hear how accurate these voices are. Seeing how great those voices sound, and that's in cyclic mode, so it is actually cycling through the voices. So just really happy with it so far. But the next video will actually be this thing closed up, and I'll be giving you guys a demo. Alright guys, the Memorymoog is officially complete. It's all back together, and I know you're excited, Jerry. I know this is going to be a big one for you here. But as you guys have seen through the slideshows, I'm not going to bore you with all the extra stuff here because I've already put it all in a photograph pretty much in a slideshow. I will tell you though, in that slideshow, the music that you heard, all the sounds are from a Memorymoog. There was no Minimoog in that lead section. That was actually Memorymoog. So pretty cool stuff. Just love the Memorymoog. It just does so much. I will just give you a good walk around here since I've cleaned everything up. I've conditioned the wood, and of course you saw in the pictures of all the work I've done to it, the MIDI jacks, etc. here. So now I got the MIDI kit installed. It's running just fantastic. It's cleaned it up really good. Got everything just as clean as I possibly could get it, and it just turned out really good. But the keyboard was, really filthy. Everything was just really dirty on this one. But I'm going to hold the camera here. I will show you that the auto tune works, and I'm going to just go through the voice count, show you that all oscillators are working, and then I'll put the camera on the tripod and we'll go through just the basic functions here. So first of all, we'll just hit auto tune. It takes a few seconds here to run. And once again, this thing has the auto tune update, so it's going to pull the voices in a lot tighter than what it did with the 1.6 operating system. As you can see, we have 6 tuned, which is fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set this thing up for all oscillators to the audio range. We'll go to sawtooth on all oscillators. We'll turn all oscillators down except for oscillator 1. Open the filter up here and make sure we have a little fast attack. So we've got oscillator 1 on. I'm going to go to debug mode here. So C4, enter, and now we're in defeat, where you can actually defeat voices. Love this idea of the Memorymoog. So now we should just hear oscillator 1 only. Alright, I don't know what I gotta do. I gotta go C5, enter. I gotta center these frequencies right here. There we go. That sounds much better. And also I gotta turn off the pulse width down here. So now we can see it. We'll go C4, enter. So now we should see the voice count. So that's oscillator 1 only. That was the sawtooth. We'll go to square wave here. Set this up for a 50% duty cycle here. So there's the square wave, and then here's the triangular wave. We'll go up a key. So as you can see, there's all of oscillator 1. Let's turn oscillator 1 down. Here's oscillator 2. So there's oscillator 1. Oscillator 2 on the sawtooth. We'll set this up for a square wave, and here's oscillator 2 square. As you can hear, and then we'll go to a triangular wave. Go up a key once again. So there's oscillator 2, and here's oscillator 3. So same setup here. Here's the sawtooth. So there's your sawtooth. Square wave. We'll set this up for a 50% duty cycle. As you can hear there. And then we've got the sine wave. As you can hear. So there's all your oscillators working. Also all the filters work as well. Now they're going to drift a little bit, so we'll just kind of get it. There's all the so really cool there. But I just want to show you the voice count real quick, because that's something that's easier to do while I'm holding the camera than when I have this thing on the tripod here. But let me put this thing on the tripod and I'll make you a full video. Alright, I'm just going to start by first going over a few presets with you, just so you can hear the presets. It's got the factory loaded tape data in it. I've already gone kind of through the oscillators just a little bit, but I'll go a little bit more. But a few presets, and I'll go over the interface a little bit deeper. So anyways, this is one of my favorite presets. It's a kind of a brass sound, but it just sounds so full on the Memorymoog. See here, just great it sounds there. We got the octave or the transpose here. So I'm going to go down an octave in the keyboard. Hear that low end. I'll go back up to the transpose up. So I'll show you two right quick. We'll hit C5 enter. That's going to center these two frequency pots, so you can hear how accurate those oscillators are. A lot of presets will slightly detune the oscillator so you get even a thicker tone than what you normally would have if they're all in unison. But now we can hit mono mode, and now it's going to stack all 18 voices. So as you can hear, it just sounds great. And that's in mono mode. We'll go back to poly mode here. So that's preset 2. We'll go to 21. 21's another great preset. This is a really warm pad preset. See how great that sounds? Of course, the pitch wheel works, as well as the modulation. So you can just kind of hear how that works. We'll go over that a little bit deeper. Kind of weird presets. I'll also show you too right quick on this one, since we got glide on here. I'll show you too that all the glide circuits work. So I'm going to set it pretty far. We'll set all the keys to one note. So I'll just trigger one note over and over again, get all the voices to one key. Here all the keys are now on that one key. I'll go down a key, and you hear the glide actually go. There's all 6 voices. Then what's also cool too to do is if you scatter the polyphonic glide circuits out, and now we'll hit mono mode, because what happens is you got polyphonic glide circuits, so there's a circuit per voice, and then there's a monophonic glide circuit. And so what happens is when you hit mono mode, when they're all scattered, it's going to basically take all those polyphonic glides down and center them, and then then the mono glide will take over. So you get something like this right here that's pretty cool as it pulls all those down. So there's something kind of cool there. But something else I'll go over too right quick, we'll leave glide on. As you can hear, when you play with glide in a cyclic mode, you got different keyboard modes. So we can change how we want the voices to basic trigger. So we can put them in cyclic, which means every time you hit a note it's going to go through each voice in a cyclic pattern. Or we can go in reset mode or memory cycle or memory reset. And what those two, the memory modes, what they do, they keep a certain number of voices per octave, so you don't have a glide just kind of running everywhere. Makes it a lot more playable. So if we listen right now, you can still play it, but if we go to reset mode, I'm going to put a little bit more glide on it. Now we actually have almost like a monophonic synth. If I play it, see how that glide, it stays with one voice. Or I should say the voice stays with one key. If I reset the note, that one voice will always go between the key. If I don't reset it, you can see it's going to pull another voice in. And so if I play it just with a chord, so it's a really handy kind of feature, getting into the keyboard modes. You can do a lot with the keyboard modes themselves. We'll go through a few more presets here. You've also got your program volume, and some of those are turned down for some presets. That's why the volume's a little bit different. Good example of the filter on that one. And what that is, that's an unconditional contour, which means your envelopes are going to follow out the contour pattern even if you luff a note. So the ADSR will continue on out. If I turn that off, because I have to hold in a note to get it to follow through the contour. If I turn that on, it'll follow through it on its own. So it's kind of a handy thing. That's a few of the presets. We'll go back to preset 1. I'll turn everything off. So we got the voice modulation. You've already heard some of the modulation, so we go through the modulation section. So it's going to be oscillator 1 only. Here's oscillator 2, oscillator 3. And then we've also got pulse width of oscillator 1, so we actually turn down the oscillators here. Just turn up oscillator 1. Then we got oscillator pulse width 2, so we'll go here and then we got pulse width of oscillator 3. So we'll go oscillator 3 here. So that's the pulse width, and of course we got the filter. We've also got different waveforms. So we got triangular wave, sawtooth, reverse sawtooth, square wave. So as you can hear, that's just an example of the square wave. Then we got sample and hold. Anyways, that's just an example of some of the modulation here with the LFO. We've also got the voice modulation, which is really handy. What this basically does, it allows you to use oscillator 3 kind of like on a Memorymoog. So you're able to take that oscillator and then modulate different things with it. But you also have the filter contour, which can be shaped, can shape things as well. Really handy feature. So I'll show you this right quick. We'll open this filter up, and we'll actually turn oscillator 3 back into a low mode by hitting this button here. Turn keyboard tracking off, just like the orange switch by the oscillator 3 for the keyboard control. And then low setting, so that's just going to be a low oscillator. So we'll go here and actually modulate oscillator 1 with oscillator 3. And this is where it gets really cool, because we'll actually turn this back to... So what we'll do here is we'll go here, and we'll modulate oscillator 1 now with the LFO. So we'll modulate oscillator 2, because oscillator 1 is being modulated by oscillator 3. So oscillator 2 now. So you can have a lot of fun with this section. We can also inject the envelope contour of the filter into the oscillator 1. Sounds fun to do with that, though. We'll get our envelope set up here. That's also really handy if you use oscillator sync. So we'll turn oscillator sync on, put a square wave on these. So we'll actually... And at the same time we can inject the oscillator 3 as well. So pretty fun stuff right there. We can also control the filter with the oscillator 3. You get something like that right there with it. We've got the, I'll go back here to the oscillators now. So we can also do pulse width control with voice modulation. So we'll go here to oscillator 1 only. We'll turn pulse width on. Control the amount using the oscillator 3 amount knob right here. So that's oscillator 1. Here's oscillator 2. So you get something like that right there. It's really handy. But you can also get an out-film synthesis, which is something I really love about the voice modulation section. So I actually turn oscillator 3 back into an oscillator, audio oscillator. We'll go here and now we'll turn oscillator sync off. So close this filter up. We'll go here and hit the filter button on this. Let me turn all the oscillators down. This is just a filter. So you can have a lot of fun with this section here. You can have a lot of fun with the voice modulation. Of course, you can shape and mix, and I've got a lot of little things I've done with that over the years, especially on my Instagram page, if you guys check out the Instagram page. But anyways, that's the voice modulation section. I will show you also that all the envelope generators work, the contour generators. So we'll actually go back here. We'll just turn the oscillators off first. Get this filter to... I'm going to cyclic mode. We're in cyclic mode. I'm just going to voice count so I can keep up with it. So that's voice 5. So that's all the voices there. Turn it up just a little bit. So now we'll go here and just set everything to 0. Here's just a click. There's our decays. Our attacks. So there's the contour there. We also got the sustain. So you hear all your sustains there. Now they're not ever uniform, just because of the way the 3360s, I calibrate all that, but they're just always off. Even when I do a calibration, the numbers are there, everything calibrates, but if you turn these up, you'll notice that they're just never uniform across, as you can hear. But we also got the release. So we'll go here and so as you can hear, there's your contour for your filter. So that's going through each voice there. Open the filter back up. We'll set everything to 0 on the loudness contour here. It's just a click. Bring up just one oscillator. There's our attack. We got the decay, so we're back just to a click. So as you can see there, and then we've also got the sustain. So we got everything set back to 0. This basically sets how low the decay is allowed to go. So it lets you get those kind of percussive stuff, just like on the Memorymoog. Set to 0 and you don't have anything, it goes all the way to 0 on the decay. Set that up. So now we also got a release. It's set to 0 right now. We'll bring up the release a little bit. Now you can see when I left a note, we have some carry on to the. So as you can hear, so there's your contour generators. You've also got a release button that turns off the release. This kind of works like a decay switch on the Memorymoog. So if you hit it, and then you can see now we have a release time. But anyways, that's the envelope generator there. We've also got return to 0. So if we set this thing up, we get everything kind of. If we go to, we'll go to reset mode for this one. So if we go here and we'll, so you can see if I reset the note before the envelope's through, it'll actually reset to the front of the envelope. So if you have a versus, you can hear it's always going to kind of follow the contour unless you hit return to 0. And it's really nice when you use the section over here, because you do some of like Keith Emerson kind of stuff. Without it, you hear it just kind of builds up, but with the release or the return to 0, you have a lot of fun with that. And of course, I've mentioned earlier the unconditional contour, which actually, if we set a slow attack, and I just have a release time here, it's going to follow out the contour. So that's a really handy feature. We also got keyboard follow, which means the envelopes are going to be shorter as you go up the keyboard. So if we start low, actually let me go back to return to 0. I'm sorry, unconditional contour. See how long the attack is versus up here. With that off, you'll have an even contour across the keyboard. So as you can hear how that works. So really handy stuff. This has probably one of the coolest contour envelopes in it I've ever messed with. And they're actually 3310 Curtis chips is what they're using for the actual envelopes, or the envelope generators. So it's a really nice kind of circuit. But anyways, that's the envelope generators. I'll also show you too, you can invert the voice modulation. Something I love to do with this too is I'll go to oscillator 2, and I'll actually make it come in later using a pulse width control. So I'll set this up for an envelope. So if we just turn down all the oscillators except for oscillator 2, we'll go here and modulate oscillator 2. So you can see how it's coming in later. If we add oscillator 1 to that, how that works. Just a really handy thing to do. But we can also invert this. So if we go to we'll go back here to oscillator 1, just a frequency. So now if we actually hit the invert button, it's actually going to invert it backwards. So that's also handy. We also have contoured of oscillator 3, so what you can do is actually have an envelope set up here, and we can actually make the modulation come in of oscillator 3. I'll set this back to low frequency here. So if we just bring up just this, make a slow attack. It actually delays the input because we got an envelope here that's going to bring that oscillator 3 in slowly. Once again, we can control the mix of that using our contour filter knob here. Or we can combine oscillator 2 and 1 together in this, and you get a nice So anyways, you can see how that works. So really handy stuff right there. But anyways, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You also got their arpeggiator. So we can go here and go arpeggiator mode. And you got, we'll go last note. That down, there we go. Hold. So you can see how that works. That's also using the holds. We can actually do like power chords. So we hit a chord. Now we'll also bring up too, this hold button throws a lot of people off, especially if you're a Roland guy, because typically on a Roland, the hold button makes your envelopes just hold. So you can get a constant sustain. In this case, it doesn't work that way. It's like a power chord button. So if we play a chord, hold, you can see how that works. So that's how the that mode works. Of course, the keyboard mode. What I also love too about the Memorymoog is you have this modulation amount knob. So if you have the modulation wheel here, so we can actually engage modulation to oscillator 1, for example, like so. But we can also use this modulation amount knob if we want to save a position of modulation. So we don't always have to remember where the wheel is for the preset. We can actually program it to where we have a mount already programmed, like so, and I don't have to worry about where the wheel is. The wheel still works, but now we got a set amount that can be saved in the program. So that's a really handy knob. We got the pitch bend as well. We got pitch bend amount. So here it is full. So we can actually set how far we want the wheel to travel. So really handy stuff there. But anyways, that's your Memorymoog, Jerry, and just wanted to take a minute here and go over some of the stuff in it and just kind of give you an overview. But I appreciate all you guys watching, and there'll be more here to come here very soon. Take care.